and welcome to Smart Gardening to Deter Deer, using barriers effectively. I'm Michigan State University Extension Educator Caitlin Splosky, and I'm here to talk to you today, along with Barbara Gregerson, about using barriers in your garden to protect against deer nibbling and rubbing on your plants.
As much as we love seeing deer in the wild, their presence can wreak havoc on our carefully cultivated garden spaces. Deer are known to nibble on a wide variety of plants, leaving behind damaged foliage, disrupted growth, and even the loss of flowers, which are the most prominent and enjoyed feature of many of our beloved landscape plants. It's important to take deer behavior related to foraging into consideration when we are attempting to exclude them from feeding on our plants. Deer may not always be responsible for the damage we see in our gardens. Animals such as rabbits or groundhogs can cause damage to plants that is sometimes mistaken as deer damage. Whereas deer will bite and pull foliage off of plants, rabbits will leave a clean cut at a 45-degree angle low to the ground, although winter damage can occur higher up on plants due to snow. Groundhogs tend to stay 50 to 100 feet from their burrows, so if you suspect damage from a groundhog, their den should be close by. To be sure deer are causing the damage you see, look for signs of their presence. You should see evidence of buck rubbing, deer poop, and trails. Hoof prints are also another sign of their presence. Deer are active year-round, and peak feeding times occur in the early morning and late evening. You won't likely catch them in the act, so it's important to look for signs of their activity. While it's true that certain plants are less favored by deer, all young plants, especially young trees, should be protected. Various materials can be used, such as plastic mesh sleeves, plastic or biodegradable tree tubes, plastic or cardboard tree wraps, or woven wire cylinders. It's important to install these protective wrappings on tree trunks prior to fall, when young bucks start to rub the velvet off of their antlers. Research has shown that fencing is the best non-lethal way to protect areas from deer damage. If you are considering installing fencing for deer protection, you'll have to decide if whole property fencing is appropriate for your site. Many opt to create micro-enclosures around certain garden beds or to fence individual plantings due to ease of accessibility and cost. It's up to you to decide which option to pursue, but we will primarily be looking at fencing individual plants. If you opt for fencing a larger space, wire fences should be at least 8 feet high. High voltage electric fencing can also be a suitable option. Deer are especially attracted to fresh, young growth on plants. It's important to make sure that new plantings are fenced as soon as they are planted. It's also a good idea to protect plants that have been recently pruned, since the flush of new growth will be very attractive to a hungry deer. Let's look at a few different styles of fencing installed around individual plantings.
This plant is Thuja plicata, or Western Arborvitae. This is one plant that is sold as deer resistant. However, when it's small like this, we want to protect it because it's still very tasty to deer. All right, this is commercial deer fencing. It's very flimsy and made of plastic. As you can see, even though it kind of protected the plant, there's parts that stick through where the deer can nibble. And even at the top where we see this growth, you can see the deer can eat from the top as well. And the plant was also staked, but as you can see, this plastic fencing didn't hold in place. This is another example of commercial deer fencing. It's also plastic, but it's black, which tends to make deer unsure once they run into it. It would be similar to when we run into a cobweb. Caitlin, can you tell us about this commercial deer wrap?
Barb, this isn't actually commercial deer wrap. This is a trunk wrapping that was put on by the nursery. You can see it was wrapped pretty tightly and fastened with some string. And it looks like maybe it should have come off a little while ago. The reason I know this is looking down at the base of the trunk here, we can see where this wrap is actually starting to damage the trunk of the tree. So this is a tulip tree. It's about 2 to 3 inches around in diameter. And this is something that a buck, might try and rub on if they're between the ages of 1 and 3. So 1, 2, 3 years old, about this size. An older buck is gonna go for a larger tree.
Caitlin, can you tell us why these trees don't have buck rub?
Well, in this case, I think we had a combination of the deer being deterred from these trees by a combination of things. This staking, along with the tree wrap, although the tree wrap probably didn't do a whole lot, but the staking was enough to deter the deer from getting in here with their antlers. They actually found other things that were easier to rub their antlers on, and sometimes that's all it takes. They're always going for the lowest hanging fruit and the easiest access.
This is another type of commercial deer fencing. This one we installed horizontally for the length of the trunk of the tree and tied it together with zip ties. This commercial fencing was installed during the summer.
Gardens can be especially attractive feeding grounds for deer. White-tailed deer are well acclimated to both urban and suburban settings. They often use the fragmented forested area between homes for cover during the day, browsing on the abundant food present in gardens the rest of the time. To add insult to injury, they tend to prefer browsing on ornamental species versus native plants. Deer populations in your area will also influence the severity of damage you might see. The combination of high reproductive rates, large home ranges, and wide dispersal patterns limits the control wildlife managers are able to achieve.
So here's an example of some commercial deer fencing that was put on, but the zip ties were too loose. And so what happened was the deer were able to get up in here and actually poke through on the bottom of the plant. It was also not all the way to the ground, and so they were able to come up underneath. Now if we look at the top, this fencing was put high enough, and so the deer didn't go through the trouble to crane their necks over top and feed on the top of this plant, though they did go ahead and feed underneath where they could access the plant underneath.
And we can see on this one, the deer were also able to get underneath the plant and eat what they wanted. And then they were able to reach over the top and feed up over here too.
Here we have fencing that is similar to what a homeowner might have. You might have a 4 to 5 foot chain link fence, or you might have a privacy fence that's about this high that's made of wood. But in order for deer to be kept out of a space, whole enclosure fencing needs to be at least 8 feet tall. Some folks will go to the length of having 9 or 10 feet high to keep deer out. Unlike a micro enclosure, this space is large enough for deer to jump into.
The keys to effectively using barriers to prevent deer damage are to first make sure that deer are the ones damaging your plants and not some other critter. Once you've identified that deer are causing damage, protect new plantings of trees and other ornamental plants by properly installing recommended trunk guards and fencing. We hope today's video has given you the tools to effectively use barriers against damage caused by white-tailed deer. For more information on plants that deer tend to avoid, check out our introductory video, Smart Gardening to Deter Deer. For further questions on any gardening-related topics, check out our Smart Gardening tip sheets. Send us a question on Ask Extension, or give us a call on the statewide toll-free Lawn and Garden Hotline.
Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you learned something about using barriers to protect your garden. If there are any other topics you'd like to know more about, please check out our website.